Hey, this is Efrem Smith. Welcome to another episode of City Beats. So glad to be with you, talking about topics that get to the heartbeat of the city. I'm an urban pastor. I'm at a church in the heart of the city, and I've lived in the city just about my whole life. And so I care about the issues of the city. I care about the stories of the city. And on this episode, I have an awesome guest who has an awesome story. And she happens to be a good friend of mine, like a sister from another mother.
A sister.
So I want to introduce Pastor Christa Armstead.
Well, thank you. Aren't you Irish too? Didn't you say you're?
Yes, I have some Irish
we are
folks
really
in my
related.
family. Oh, because you have Irish in your family
Irish
too?
People in my family
what?
too. Yes.
So you are a worship leader. You are a associate pastor, a preaching, teaching pastor. You're working on your master's degree.
Yes.
And you are on staff with me, on the same team with me at
Yes.
Bayside Church Midtown here in the heart of Sacramento.
Which has been awesome, by the way.
So, but you've been a part of it since the very beginning.
Very beginning, like 30 people.
So-
Maybe like the first 6 people.
Okay, so Bayside Church Midtown, a campus of Bayside Church, kind of the urban, multi-ethnic expression of Bayside. Bayside Church has 8 campuses. This right now is the one urban, very multicultural campus of Bayside. But you were a part of the church before it became a campus of Bayside.
Yep. So we started, Pastor Bob and I started with Boss. And so Bayside of South Sacramento.
Yes.
Same type of vision, multi-ethnic, multi-generational, multicultural church. And Bob decided to plant what was originally called the House Church right here in the city.
Yes.
The House Church. And then we remerged back with Bayside. And
So what
became
was the
Bayside campus.
original vision then? So before the house, and I should, just for our listeners, you're referring to Bob Bellion, who I serve as the co-senior
Yes, I
pastor
should have
with
said
here
that, right?
at Bayside Midtown Church. He's been on an episode of City Beats a couple of times. So people, if you didn't listen to that episode, you will have to check it out. He'll be back on again, so I'm sure. But Bob Bellion was the executive pastor at Bayside of South Sacramento. Pastored
late,
by,
great Sherwood
Oh
Carthen,
my gosh.
right?
Bishop Sherwood
Carthen, correct.
And the bishop, he truly was. I remember Kevin Johnson, former NBA player, was mayor of Sacramento when Bishop Carthen passed. And I remember at the funeral, he said that he was the pastor of Sacramento.
Right. He also talked about his shoes being so big that they were too big to walk in them.
Bishop was a big dude.
Yeah, and you know what? And he had a vision for the city. Some of the stuff that he was doing way back then, cops with clergy, partnering with elementary schools and bringing resources to urban communities are a big part of our DNA today.
Yeah,
I would attribute that to Sherwood.
You and your husband Gus were
and my 4 kids.
And your 4 kids.
We used to unpack trucks. And
now the boys got all A names.
Right.
Armando, Aaron, and
Alexis,
Eric.
and Eric.
So it is. She has an A name too, because I'm always used to calling her Lexi.
Right.
But her government name is Alexis.
And they're all AKA, because Gus is really Albert Kelly.
So everybody's A.
Everybody's
but
an AKA but me.
So
I gotta stand out.
Why didn't a kid? So no kid got to have a C first
no
letter
Cs.
in their name.
No C's.
No,
That's okay. I stand alone.
Okay, all right. So you
I stand proud and alone too.
You like I birthed them, but you can have their names to be after you. That's fine.
Right.
All right. So, but you and Gus were a part of
The
Boss,
very beginning, right.
Bayside of South
The beginning
Sacramento,
of that.
and Bob Bellion was executive pastor there. And then from there, he plants a church called The House,
Correct.
with a similar vision of being multicultural, multi-ethnic, but even more in the heart of the city
Right.
of Sacramento. And he's born and raised
Here in
Sacramento. You and your husband have a long track record, even though you're not originally from here. We'll get to that a little bit later.
Yeah.
But you've lived in this city a long time.
A long time.
And so
And done ministry in this city a long time. Before that, where I met Christ was about less than a mile from here in Oak Park, which is a city that a part of the town that we also seek to minister to even today.
Yeah.
A little small little church in Oak Park is where I first met.
That's right. You have some roots in the Church of God in
The
Christ.
Church of God in Christ, right there. Little Bethel,
Little Bethel,
the house of God.
Church of God in Christ.
See, I keep going with this house theme, this house church
And
theme.
I remember, I grew up in the African American Baptist church, but I knew people that were Kojic, and so since you have Kojic background, I have to ask you if this is true. All right, so some of my Kojic friends said that there's a song that they would sing.
You can't join in. You got to be born in. This is the Church of God.
So that's for real.
That's for real.
You can't just join in.
Don't join in. Don't try to join in.
You got to be born in.
Right.
That means if you're not born again.
Not born again. Don't
come
go to that
here.
church.
Don't come here
now,
to think you
do
just
come
join.
to Bayside Midtown or any of our Bayside campuses.
Yes.
You don't have to be born again quite yet.
Yeah, you can come join, and if you're not born again, then we will love you towards that effort, towards that decision.
We're here, right?
That's right.
Right.
That's right. So you're involved in Little Bethel? Was that the right thing?
Bethel. Bethel.
Why'd I call it Little Bethel?
I don't know.
Because you said it was a little church.
Because I said it was little. It was a little chapel.
So it was Bethel, then to Bayside of South Sacramento.
Then to
the house
and here,
so
which is the same church.
Before the house became Bayside Church Midtown, you were a part of it when it was 30 people
or less, because I think my husband and Bob were,
So what was the first meeting like of the beginnings of this new urban church in Sacramento?
Oh, it was exciting and it was familiar, because you got to remember the history is Boss Church met at Sac City College before it moved further south. So Pastor Bob always had this vision where he talked about winning the parks.
Yeah.
Oak Park, Land Park, Curtis Park, and this Midtown area. So he had this vision of what's come to pass today, of black, white, brown, Asian, young, old, rich, poor, homeless, millennial. He had this vision, almost 8 years ago, of this is the type of church that he wanted to see us have.
Yeah, I remember coming to preach for Bishop Sherwood Carthen when I was still pastoring in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
And then when I took a role in our denomination, the Evangelical Covenant Church, I would come and preach at Boss. And then little did I know, years later, I would join up with this,
Bob and us.
with this group and serve in that way. So, I mean, 30 people or less in the beginning. Now the church, as Bayside Church Midtown,
About
is
6,000.
So 6,000 in total reach,
right.
in terms of people that would say, I'm a part of Bayside Church Midtown. And then on any given weekend, about 3,200 or something like that.
Well, a couple Sundays ago, did you know we broke ground or broke records? We were at almost 4,000.
Yeah. Some would say Bayside Church Midtown is the fastest growing urban multi-ethnic church on the West Coast. But since I'm a part of it, I'm going to let somebody else say that. I'm not going
yeah, we'll let someone else say that.
Say somebody said that.
Somebody said
I don't know if it's
Don't
true.
you love that when they say somebody said? You're like, who's somebody?
Yeah. I just know there's a bunch of people that come.
Yeah,
and I'm glad, I'm humbled, because we're just, really, if people came and hung out with us, I hope they would see we're just common, plain folks that love the Lord, that love this city, and want to see lives transformed, want to see people whole and healed and empowered, want to see people reconciled across race and class. And so, I think we really try hard to not act like a big deal around. I mean, like you can go to some churches and it's like, the pastors are a big deal. You can't even get to them. You can't touch them. You can't. It's like.
And you guys used to have a special chair. Did you have a special chair at the Baptist church?
Oh yeah.
With the big kind of gold ornate, backing.
Oh yeah. You'd sit on the dais.
Right.
on the dais. I don't know if they, so you'd be, or they call it, you're sitting up in the pulpit.
In the pulpit. Right.
Yes. So we don't have a pulpit.
No, we don't have a pulpit.
We don't have a dais. Anything like that.
And I think that's what endears me and what I love about being a part of Midtown and I'm part of Bayside. I can literally invite anyone. I never have to think about it. There's been times in my Christian journey where I had to think about it. Like, if I invite this person, would they fit in? Would they feel comfortable? Would they feel accepted? Literally, I can invite my neighbor who's a big, maybe a big time CEO, or I can invite the homeless person that I pass on my way to my car to say, hey, when they say, hey, you have money for me? And I say, sure. Can I pray for you? And can I tell you about my church? Can I tell you about Winter Sanctuary? Can I tell you about pilgrimage? And I know that they will be embraced and welcome here.
Yeah.
So it's exciting.
Yeah. It's
humbling.
Yeah. So, man, I could go on about that because I love my church, right?
Yes, me too.
Know what I mean?
Me too.
And so, I just want to say, some of the people listening, watching, they'll go, well, that must be some personal stuff. I don't know what that's about. But I need to say, the way you and your husband, Gus, have welcomed me and my wife, Denisha, and our daughters, Jada and Maria, I mean, it's like, I can't believe how so quickly we have felt like we are home.
Yeah.
We are rooted.
Yeah.
It was like we've been here for years and years and years, and we've only been here a couple of years or so, almost 3 years, but not very long.
It really feels that way. It feels like you called me, you started out by saying, this is my sister. It really feels that way. Now, I'm just a little bit older than you, not much though. So
just a little bit.
I don't want to be like your big sister. I want to be like your slightly bigger sister.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah. It's like you would have been only older than me. Of like, I would have still been in diapers, and you would have been like, I ain't in diapers no more.
Right.
What's wrong
just
with you?
A little bit. Just
What's
a little
wrong
bit.
with you? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you was just older enough to bully me.
Right. Which I like.
Just to
I
bully
like
me.
that.
So yeah.
I still try to bully you a little bit.
A little bit.
A little bit.
So one of the reasons I wanted you on City Beats so bad was because you have your own city story, your own urban story. Sometimes we get in the church and we act like we don't have a story, that we don't have a journey, that, we forget that God has brought us so far. And I think that's why some people get turned away from the church in the city, because they step into it and they go, man, these people act like their life has always been perfect and everything's going well with them, and the language they're using, I don't identify, because I feel like maybe I just need to go back home and wait till I get my stuff together, and then, as if they say stuff, and then as soon as I get it all together,
it's not the stuff
right, as soon as I get it all together, then I can come to a church and hang out with these people that obviously have it all together.
Because they're so spiritual. Huh?
And what I appreciate about you is you are so transparent. When I experience you leading worship, when I've heard you preach, when you've shared your testimony, you've been so willing and transparent in sharing your story and your journey, where God brought you and Gus from before you were married, where God brought you, from your childhood through your college years. So can we go back a little bit now? Can we take it back?
Let's take it back. I want to just say this too. I was speaking to a group of women just yesterday and talking about the Samaritan woman. And I said, I can so relate to the Samaritan woman. That's my life. And the topic was how Jesus turns our messes into messages.
Wow.
Our messes into messages. And so I feel like, that's me. I'm surprised that I'm sitting, when I say in this seat, I don't mean this physical seat, but I'm surprised. I'm sure I was not going to be most likely to be a pastor for those who knew me in high school.
Oh, me too. I mean, when I became a Christian, I grew up in the church, but I was basically going to church because my mom was going to church, my grandmother was going to church. That's what you did. I was culturally, a Christian, but I had not made a personal decision. And when I did that in high school, I remember my mom getting so excited. And she told me, I had a dream when I was pregnant with you that my grandmother came to me in a dream and said that baby in you is going to be a preacher and he's going to speak to all kinds of people and it's going to be multiracial. And I decided, okay, look, I'm going to be a Christian, but I guess I'm going to have to live like I'm not one so that it will be obvious to people that I am not going to be nobody's pastor. And so that's crazy.
How's that working for you? How's that work out?
Crazy.
Crazy.
Just absolutely crazy. Of going to church and saying I'm a Christian when I'm at church, but then when I was outside of church, not acting like I was a Christian at all. But praise God, God's grace, God got a hold of me later on in college. And then I couldn't run anymore, from I get what we call, our calling.
Yeah.
And so life for you begins in Southern California?
Southern California.
So were you born in LA?
I was born in LA, the city of dreams.
I love LA.
Yes. It
That's
never
where you-
rains in Southern California?
Yes.
Yes.
It has a couple times on me, but maybe
Right.
maybe
But
something wrong
it
with
doesn't
me.
when I go there. When I was
Yeah.
raised there, when I was living there, it didn't.
What part of LA did you grow up in?
Well, I grew up in a neighborhood called The Jungle. If anybody has ever seen the movie Training Day with Denzel.
Oh yeah, when he's like
That's-
King
that-
Kong
King
ain't got
Kong
nothing on me.
That's a real
Shoe program.
Right. That is a real neighborhood in Los Angeles. It's
So that scene when the gang members are standing
I
around.
live that
and-
scene every day, Efrem.
So that's the
lived
kind of
that
community
scene.
where you grew up.
That's my hood. That's my neighborhood.
Wow.
And with this look, that was difficult. So I'll just take you back. So I was born in 1967. My mom was attending a predominantly white Catholic school down in the valley, and she had a priest who was like her mentor and and told her she was special and that she was intelligent and that she was bright. But then he came knocking on the door one day to also say that God would be okay if they had a romantic relationship.
Wow. How old was your mom then?
My mom was she was 14 when they met.
Wow.
And then she was about 17 years old when he knocks on the door. I don't know if you remember the miniseries The Thornbirds with
Yes.
Father Ralph
Yes.
and Maggie, and they romanticized that relationship. Well, that was my life.
Wow.
And so the relationship began, and soon thereafter, maybe after, very soon into their relationship, she finds out she's pregnant with me. And my father didn't believe in abortion, so he said, okay, you can't tell anybody that this child is mine, this baby is mine. You have to give her up for adoption. So she went into a Catholic home for unwed mothers. But midway through her pregnancy, she realized,
Wow.
now
So this was a way to kind of like
hide it.
hide
it, right? Go have the baby,
Yeah.
come back and just act like it and go away to college because she's very bright. She had a scholarship to Stanford.
and so that this wouldn't get out.
Right.
That she was pregnant
By
by
a Catholic
priest.
A white Catholic priest.
So she's African American.
He's white.
He's a white Catholic priest.
15 years older.
He's 15 years older.
Right, than her.
And she becomes pregnant with you.
Right.
And it's like, let's send her away
Right.
to this school for unwed mothers.
Right. And so it wasn't like today. This is 1967, kind of in the throes of the civil rights movement where adoptions were private back then. Now today, Angelina Jolie and different, you can be a different culture, ethnicity, and you can adopt a baby of different cultures, ethnicities.
yeah.
But back then, people who adopted, both black and white, adopted kids that could be passed for their own.
Yes.
You wouldn't go around telling people that you were adopted. So somewhere in the pregnancy, she figured out that she couldn't give me to a white family because you didn't know if I'd come out looking black, and she couldn't give me to a black family because you didn't know if I would come out looking white. I wouldn't be able to pass, and so she made the decision that she would keep me. And then
Was the Catholic priest unhappy about that?
oh, very unhappy. So he came to see me one time when I was born, and then he walked out and never came back. So there, put us in these poverty-stricken, low-income neighborhoods. My mom's
Did
trying
that,
to survive.
growing up, did that impact your view of the Catholic Church? Like seeing a Catholic church or seeing a Catholic priest, would that be painful for you when you were
Well,
growing up?
it didn't impact my view of the church as much as it impacted my view of myself.
How so?
Because I thought this is kind of weird, but do you remember the movie like The Omen and the movie The Exorcist?
Oh my Lord!
I kind of thought
yes,
well, you have to be some kind of evil to have just in my mind, you have to be evil to have a dad that's a priest. It just was a weird thing. So it just impacted my thoughts about myself.
Yeah,
I didn't really think about the church too much because we didn't go to church. After that, my mom walked away from faith. As a matter of fact, she tried a lot of different churches. So we were Black Muslims.
Yeah.
Can you imagine me with this?
So for her, I mean, she was in the Catholic Church.
Right.
So I should back up and ask, because you were saying she's at a Catholic school and she's being mentored by this
Right.
priest. But would she have, were your grandparents Catholic?
My grandmother was Catholic. My father would come sit to the table once a week because priests used to do that. They would visit the home back then.
Yes.
He would sit at the table, eat the food, bless the house. So
Yeah, they would really go around what they call
Right.
their parish.
Right, their parish, and they would blessing. To have a priest at the house was like tantamount to
all right. So
a blessing on the whole
so
family.
for your mother, this interaction with the priest, your birth, all of the things surrounding that,
Right.
she leaves the Catholic Church
Right.
or
Very
walks away
wounded.
from the Christian faith.
Right. Period.
And so let's talk about how old are you? You're still in LA in the jungle, and you start going to not an Orthodox mosque, but the Black Muslim, the
Black
Nation
Muslim.
of Islam.
Right. This is back when Malcolm X is probably died in '68, I think.
Yeah, he died early because King died in '68. I think Malcolm died a few years earlier than.
Okay.
I can't remember if it was between '63 and '65. We'll have to look that up.
But the movie, if you've seen that movie, The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he was like the messenger. He was like the Jesus.
So Elijah Muhammad was still around.
Right. Elijah Muhammad was still around. I used to, at 5 years old, I used to have to carry around the book called Message to the Black Man.
Yes, I have that
That
book.
was my Bible.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember that. So, so for your mother and for you, what do you think was well, let's start with your mother. What do you believe was the initial draw of what kind of wooed her or led her to the Nation of Islam?
I think she was disenfranchised with what happened, in the Catholic Church. And back then, the Nation of Islam was celebrating my mom's African American, brown, was celebrating for the first time her beauty, saying Black is beautiful and Black women have value. You have value. And I think she had felt so discarded and so not valued by the Catholic Church. So was this
the 70s, the 80s?
This is the 70s, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So I was born in '67. I think she enters the nation around when I'm about 4 years old. And we stayed there till I was in elementary school. We stayed with the nation till I was in elementary school.
Yeah. So let me give you my little sort of connection to the Nation of Islam. So I grew up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, which is, I think when I was growing up and even when I moved, I think Minnesota was seen as like the 13th whitest state in America. So it's not like the African American population is huge.
Right.
But I grew up in South Minneapolis and I went to North High School across town. That high school was 80% African American when I attended there. It's where I met Denisha, who would become my wife. But the college I went to a small Catholic university in central Minnesota, St. John's University, all-male Catholic university, connected to an all-women's Catholic school. And so the women lived on their campus, the men, we lived on our campus, but all the classes were co-ed. So, so every class I had, so it was like we were Johnnies and they were called Bennies.
Okay.
So
Johnnies
College of
and
St.
Bennies.
Benedict, St. John's University, Johnnies and Bennies, right? So I get there, and my freshman year, I think maybe I was one of 10 or 14 African American students on the whole campus of St. John's University. I would get on the shuttle buses that would take you from the St. John's campus to the St. Ben's campus, and sometimes white students would sit 3 to a seat or stand in the aisle of the bus before they would sit with me. So that was weird. So it's like your first experience. You're sitting. Maybe I should have been glad I had my own seat and I had room.
Right.
But it's like when you see people pass your seat, sit 3 to a seat before they sit with you, you feel some kind of way.
Yeah.
And I remember my sophomore year, some other African American students came to campus from Chicago. And 2 of them, even though they went to Catholic high schools, they were really into the Nation of Islam. Like, I remember.
Is that where it started?
Yes,
Detroit, Chicago?
Well, yeah, in Chicago. I mean, especially when Farrakhan became the head, they really established Chicago as like the headquarters, the central location of the Nation of Islam. So it's like, I remember a classmate, Cedric from Chicago. It was the first time, like, I remember watching on video Savior's Day and listening to Farrakhan preach.
Did you have some bean pie?
Yes.
Okay.
The first time I had a bean pie, Cedric brought a
Cedric
bean
brought
pie.
you some bean pie.
When we came back from Christmas break, and he
Everybody's
had
probably
bean.
wondering what we're talking about.
Yes.
Some bean pie.
So can you explain what a bean pie is? Because it sounds like it's nasty, but it's so good. I would eat a bean pie right now.
Well, the nation too, you got to remember, they tried to pull themselves away from everything that would have been associated with the South, some of those things. So it was their version of sweet potato pie.
Yes.
But it's made with beans, and it's delicious, by the
Yeah,
way.
it tastes sweet. I don't know how they do it.
Like, don't laugh, but a few weeks ago in Oak Park, there's a guy that parks his truck and he has bean pies. I'm like, I just got to see if they still taste as good as they did
I'm telling
30
you,
something years ago.
when I worked for World Impact, this urban missions organization, I would go to LA a lot. Still lived in the Bay Area at the time, but would stay down in LA 5 or 6 days a month. And I'm telling you, when I was driving around South Central, when I was driving around
USC,
USC, and the Nation of Islam guy he'd be on the median, at the traffic light, and he'd sell the final call, and I'd roll down my window. He's like, "Final call, brother."
Like, "No, but
I'm like, "No, but I'll take a bean pie."
I'll take the bean pie.
And I would eat bean pies every time.
Yeah.
Look, I'm telling you, it won't mess up your faith. It won't mess up where you are in life right now.
Try bean pie.
Yes, look. Roll your window down when you see the man with the bow tie standing in the median with the final call newspaper and the bean pie. You don't need to get the final call if you don't want to, but get the bean pie. Yes, it'll bless you.
That's funny.
I'm telling you. So I remember, because that feeling of people sitting 3 to a seat before they sit with you, or being called the N-word. I remember going out one night, and a car drove by and called me and some other African Americans the N-word. And so, you feel less than human. You feel like you're from another planet visiting here. And so, listen, for me, I mean, I understand the problematics with the theology and all that stuff.
Right.
But there were some of those words that made me feel human again, that made me feel whole. And so I remember listening to Louis Farrakhan, listening to Malcolm X, Message to the Black Man. There's also this Torchlight for America or something like that. I think I might still have that book on my bookshelf written by Farrakhan. And I would read that and listen to it, because there was just a part of it that just made me feel like, yes, I represent the first people. I represent kings and queens. There are people that look like me that were scientists and mathematicians and scholars. And here's a man who's pushing me to read W.E.B. Du Bois and pushing me to study Frederick Douglass and even to go back and study Marcus Garvey and study Africa. And so now, what was helpful is initially I was able to come back into the Christian faith, knowing that the Bible is full of stories of Black and brown people.
Right. And are we so blessed, going just today, those experiences that shaped you then, that it shaped me then, I feel, we're using today in our context.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Because there are people that they're wrestling with their own issues of image and identity. And if they feel marginalized and outcast in a world that won't sit by them.
Sometimes when I'm talking to my family, some of my family members that are not Christians, they're not believers, and I'm talking to them about some of the messages that we hear and get to be a part of about reconciliation and about people in the Bible. People don't realize that King Solomon was like me. Yeah. That he was mixed like me, and that there were Black people, Simon, who carried the cross of Jesus.
Yes, African.
They're like, wow, Black people are in the Bible. Yeah. So today, it just blows my mind that some people still don't recognize that or know that. So I feel very blessed that we get to say, yeah, he's the God of all. He said, neither Jew nor Greek nor male nor female.
Yes.
There's no difference. He loves us all.
So what was your experience like being in the Nation of Islam? Were you too young to kind of know what everything that was going on?
It's funny because that also shaped who I was in a sense, because you got to remember that you're hearing that the white man is the devil. So I don't want that to be shocking, but if you go back and listen to, that's the rhetoric that they would teach. The white man is the devil. The white man's evil. So I'm a
And
part of the Nation of Islam.
unfortunately, I was eating that up when I was in college. I was like, oh, that's why they won't sit next to me.
Right.
The devil.
But me, I'm saying I know that I'm part white.
Yes. So you're like, am I half devil?
I'm a half devil. So you see where I get that bad bad theology.
So it's like, even though you're in this place, now you're still going,
I'm not accepted here. I don't fit in here. I'm actually partly evil. So and I growing up in the jungle, there weren't a lot of mixed kids back then. And I had this flaming red hair. I mean, my hair has gotten browner, but my hair was flaming red. It was down my back.
Molly Ringwald red.
Molly Ringwald red.
See, some people are like, who is Molly Ringwald? Breakfast Club.
They used to call me Pippi Longstocking. They used to call me Howdy Doody.
Oh my God. Not Raggedy Ann.
Raggedy Ann. Anything with red hair.
With red hair. Raggedy Ann,
So
Pippi
I had
Longstocking.
this bright red hair, freckles. I was always tall for my age, so I couldn't fit in. I just stood out.
And you're living in a predominantly black community.
I'm living in a predominantly black.
So how are the black girls treating you?
Oh, hating. Like,
were they like, you think you white?
They didn't say they didn't say that, but they would say, you think you're better than us. They would, in junior high school, I literally had to be transferred to another high school because one day I'm coming home from school and one of the girls I had gone to elementary school with, so she's like, hey, Christa, how you doing? I'm like, oh, hey. Her name was Peaches. Hey, Peaches. And then all of a sudden the girls are surrounding me and they're like saying some choice words. You think you cute. You think you better than us. And I'm like, and what they didn't understand is at the time, I thought I was unattractive. I wanted to be them. I wanted to have browner skin. Matter of fact, when I started wearing makeup in high school, I got it about 3 shades darker. And I would put it on because I wanted to fit in, and I saw black as beautiful, And so I have this light skin that I didn't find to be beautiful because of, my surroundings and environment.
So
it was rough.
You didn't have to use a hot comb growing up.
No, I didn't have to use a hot comb growing up.
But
I wanted to.
That's probably a blessing,
I wanted
though.
to pretend I had
You wanted the little marks on your,
my
on
mom
your scalp.
my mom had one.
Getting burnt on the forehead.
I just wanted to fit in any kind of way that
I just remember I don't know why I said that, because I just think of like being at my grandmother's house on my mom's side growing up. I don't know what Saturday night was the night where,
because you had to go to church the next day.
I would go
to
my mom would take me over to my grandma's house, and my aunt Robin, my aunt Denise,
everybody
my
mom,
pressed. My grandma, and there'd be like these. There'd be a comb on each iron on the stove.
Wow!
Like on the stove, they have these different. Oh my Lord!
Yeah, that was a lot of pressing hair
and trying not to.
You think our audience knows what that means?
What a hot comb? I don't know. Yeah. I'm pretty sure. So, let me give you a little City Beats
education
lesson. City Beats history lesson. So black people's hair has a different texture, more coarse than the straight hair of
others.
Of others.
Because Asian, Hispanic.
Yeah, because Asians, Hispanics, white people, straight hair. Right. And so black people, to get our hair straight, you would put heat on it, or you could put a relaxer in it.
Right.
And so the things that black people would do, but specifically black women would do to straighten their hair, one was to use a hot comb, like basically a metal comb that you heat up, and then you take grease. You wouldn't know, because you didn't have to do it.
I saw it.
But you saw it.
I saw it. Yeah. It was pretty rough. It's a rough experience. Yes.
Yeah. So that's a whole nother episode that we'll have to do on City Beats of the things that
the woman that came out with that was the first black millionaire.
Oh yeah, Nora Hurston, right? That's it.
I think we got to look that up.
Oh my Lord! Now this is not
I can think
good.
of her name.
This is not good, because I'm usually pretty good at Black history, but I didn't come prepared to talk about that today. So
okay, we'll move on. You'll come back on your next episode and tell.
You know what? I'm just
first black millionaire.
While you are sharing your story,
female.
I am going to look up the black woman who invented the hot comb. Did she invent the hot comb?
And hair care products. So anyway, moving on, while you're checking that out.
Yes.
So we stayed in the Nation of Islam till about 6th grade. And then my mom slowly, I got pictures of me, Efrem, with scarves on and everything, with the crescent moon on it.
Yes.
all that good stuff. And then
Madam C.J. Walker.
How can we?
Why am I gonna say
right?
Hurston.
Houston.
No, I was thinking of the writer.
Yeah,
the writer that was like,
Madam
but
C.J.
yeah,
Walker.
Madam C.J. Walker invented a line of African American hair products after suffering from a scalp ailment that resulted in her own hair
And
loss.
there is your Black History moment.
Yes, and I do want y'all to know that I am more educated than I'm coming across right now on Black history. Shirley Chisholm was the first Black woman to run for president and have a legitimate shot, even though she didn't win. Jesse Jackson then ran next, and then after that, it was Al Sharpton. And then Barack Hussein Obama actually won. Bam.
Okay.
So
I think we're just having senior moments right there.
no,
Because I know who
we're
Madam
gonna blame
C.J.
it on age.
Yeah,
but
definitely age for
I've
me.
never used a hot comb. How was I supposed to know? All right.
All right.
But Madam C.J. Walker.
Well, anyway, we eventually left, and then and then after that, my mom tried all kind of stuff. One day, I came home from high school. The Hare Krishnas were in our house. That was a big thing back in the '80s.
Yes.
In Los Angeles, and I basically just had no faith. So just grew up kind of doing my own thing until I came to Sacramento.
So what high school did you graduate from?
University High School in LA.
And then from there, you come to Sacramento State.
Well, I was 16 when I graduated. I want to make that note. Right?
Okay.
And
You was smart.
was
You was
smart and
kind.
kind.
You impotent.
So, anyway,
That's a movie called The Help.
Right.
All right.
I went to Cal State Dominguez Hills for 1 year, and then I just wanted something different. I wanted to get out of LA.
Yeah.
And so I ended up here at Sacramento, Sac State.
So what did you major in Sac State?
Communications. I thought I was going to be a journalist.
Yes.
I thought I was going to be a
But
journalist.
you end up meeting
This
your
tall,
husband,
thin
basketball
player at Sac State. Yeah.
Yes. Albert Gus Armstead.
Correct.
Yes. So right away, did y'all fall in love and start going out, or were you like, stop talking? You know, like sometimes brothers have to work real hard before a sister likes
I
them.
made him work a little bit.
You did? All right.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But he was such a nice guy. He was kind of funny.
So,
He kind of grew on me.
but was this thing like, oh, he a basketball player, or you're like, that don't mean nothing to me?
No, I did ask him could he dunk. I wanted to see him dunk, but he couldn't. So
He couldn't?
he said he could, but he didn't.
Right.
That wasn't his game. He was more like a Magic Johnson passer.
So
suave guy.
you all started dating,
and we
then-
started living together.
Now, but I can't. What I'm going to bring up, because
you gonna bring
you
up?
hate when I do this.
Oh, no,
You-
not that.
Like whenever
Good
I bring this
gracious.
up, you never want to. But
I don't want to talk,
okay.
You never want to talk about
Oh, but you know what? Okay, can we just put a pause on that just for a minute?
Yes.
I promise we will come back to
the thing you wanna talk about?
You were at Sacramento State.
Oh.
You meet Gus.
Okay.
But before I get to that, one of the things that I forgot was, I don't know if this happened while
high
you were in
school.
college or later when you were on television about your story.
Oh, yeah.
So before the Ellen talk show, because in terms of like afternoon talk shows, like Ellen is the big deal right,
Right.
now. So the
Or
Ellen
The
show,
View.
or or you have those shows like The View, The Talk,
Yeah.
The Chew.
The seat. I'm kidding. I'm making up stuff.
But Ellen is kind of like
The big deal.
The big deal right now.
She's super funny.
And then, but before that, Oprah.
Yes.
And then
before
that, Phil Donahue.
Donahue.
That's where it all
started.
Before Maury Povich, before
Right.
Jerry Springer,
Phil Donahue.
before Sally Jesse Raphael.
Mm-hmm.
Like Phil Donahue was like this talk show host, and he would and there would just be different topics and issues
Right.
that he would discuss. And so you were on the Phil Donahue show talking about your story, right?
So somewhere in the 80s, around
So this is before you go to Sac
right, this is
State.
before I go to Sac State. Somewhere in the 80s, my mom began to tell her story. She began to go to the Catholic Church and just say, "Look, somebody owes me restitution for all the struggles that I've had. My daughter's grown up in abject poverty." And so she began to she went to Catholic Church. They didn't listen. So she started going to senators. And so she got connected to Gloria Allred, who was a very famous attorney.
Oh, yes.
And Gloria Allred decided she would take on her case to
I was like,
find my father.
she's represented a lot of women who
lot
have
of
felt
women.
abused by
Yes,
men.
yes.
I don't know if she represented women connected to, well, I'm not even talking about the current president.
Yeah,
like that.
but
Okay, we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah,
But
so-
I think she represented women.
I
in
think she
all,
did too.
We'll just say in all kinds of cases
Yeah.
involving men
And the mistreatment and misuse of
Okay.
of their power, the abuse of power.
So
she's big on that.
So she represented your mom.
So my mom somehow got her to, she heard the story and took on the case, and we went after my dad for back child support. So it's this big case.
Which is really like going after the Catholic Church
Right.
for
It was
child
precedent
support.
setting to talk for a person to come out and say that they had had an affair. This is when no one was talking about the abuses of the Catholic Church back then. No one would, this wasn't, people were afraid. My mom was even afraid. She would tell me, she said, baby, we have to be very brave because we're going against one of the most powerful entities in the world.
I've been to Rome, to
Yeah.
the Vatican City.
Yeah.
And man, once you go to Vatican City and you go to the Vatican
You
Museum,
realize
there is no question.
what's the most powerful
The resources,
entity.
the power,
Yeah.
the influence of the Catholic. I can't describe like the feeling that I had inside. Like
Seeing that.
I was just in awe.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I just in awe. So yes.
So she goes,
I
and
saw,
Gloria Allred takes her case, and then it becomes public, and then somehow Phil Donahue finds out, and we go on the Phil Donahue show, and they were gasping. He said today, this programming is probably not suitable for children if you have young children, and he said it's probably going to make some of you very angry to hear what we're going to talk about today. And she's, my guest is Linda Hobbs and her daughter Christa. And she claims that her daughter Christa, and he leaned in, her daughter Christa is the child of a Catholic priest. And the audience went,
and then the theme music kicks in. Was that tough for you? That like feeling like cameras are on you, lights are on you?
It was tough. I didn't expect to feel, I think I had buried a lot of the stuff with my dad, and just gone on because, he wasn't in my life. And I didn't expect to feel the emotion that I felt. And maybe it was how Donahue was talking when he was saying it, he was telling the story and saying it. Just a well of emotion. So if you go back, I got some clips of that episode, and I'm literally start crying. I'm literally just bawling on the show, just saying, I don't know why my dad left my mom and, why he did this to us.
Yeah.
My whole life, I felt like I was looking for a father. Trying to find my father. Matter of fact, we've talked about this. I'm almost done completing the memoir, Finding My Father.
Yeah, this is going to be a book that you're going to write.
Right.
This story,
Finding My Father,
called Finding Your Father.
Yeah.
And it's like your physical journey
to find the physical father,
but also your spiritual journey
right.
of coming into relationship with the Heavenly Father.
Right.
With
the Father
God.
that never lets you down, the Father that never disappoints.
All right now.
Even good fathers, you and my husband, you're good fathers, but you can't be everything to your children like God the Father can be.
Yeah, I sure can't give them all the money they want.
Yeah.
Sure
It's your father that owns the cattle on 1,000 hills, not you.
Right. Yes, not this father.
Not this father.
That father.
That father got the cattle.
That's right. So you had that experience prior to going to Sacramento State University.
So then I come to Sac State, and then I think the court case is still going on. We did win. It was precedent setting because back then women could not go after fathers for back child support. So the laws have all changed. I believe we changed some law. I don't remember what it is. I'd have to go look because this was in the 80s.
Yes.
It went all across the nation. How it goes out on the wires, and it went all across the nation. Even Inside Edition came to interview me. It never aired. And back then, I think I had just come to faith, and I thought, I'm gonna tell everybody about Jesus and how he's changed my life. But I was just a new baby Christian, so it wasn't quite yet that I was gonna tell that story.
So you meet Gus.
Gus,
and
we move in together, and some neighbors invite us to Bethel, the house of God, right down the street in Oak Park. And the rest is history. That day, Efrem, I heard the gospel message for the first time, and I thought, this is for me. Why hadn't someone told me that there was a God who had a purpose for my life, that there was a God who had a plan, and that he was a God that could take your mess and he could handle it, that all of our mess, all of our sin, he had taken that to the cross. And by then, I just felt so broken. I thought, this is it. And so from that day forward,
so fast forward to today, when you think of your journey, when you think of being a biracial woman, specifically being at an urban church that is multi-ethnic, multicultural, multiracial. Why for you, whether it's just for you personally or as you think about theology, why is it significant for you to be at a church that looks like what heaven will look like?
Well, it's just so interesting. I spent so much of my childhood not understanding why I was created this way, almost hating why I was created this way. And so now I can see the plan of God. I can go into all kinds of settings now. I can go into this setting and that setting, and I can relate to all kinds of, people at various backgrounds and cultures. And so I see the plan of God in me being right where I'm at. I feel like a Esther. You know how Esther said, "For such a time as this." Yeah. I feel like this is what you had for me, God, all along.
And your family's becoming multicultural.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've got the United Nations of a family.
Your son Aaron is married to Celeste. She's
Latino.
She's Latino.
Armand is married. My daughter-in-law Greer is Polynesian and Norwegian.
Polynesian and Norwegian.
And Norwegian or Swedish. Polynesian.
Yeah,
She's a
for
poly.
real.
She's a poly for real. So my two grandbabies are, Polynesian. They're black. They got some Irish. I mean, you just don't know what they're gonna look like. And then my daughter Lexi's engaged, and her fiance Brian is mixed like me. His mom's white, dad black. And then Eric is also engaged, and she is Greek and Irish, I believe. And so I'm like, wow. God, never.
Yeah. So I mean,
my whole life is about.
Well, this is what I think is such a blessing and such a powerful story. And as we get ready to close, I hope if there are listeners, viewers that feel like you come from brokenness, you come from pain, if you feel like you were born in scandal, that's not the end of your story.
Correct.
Because I think about the context in which you were born, but then the beautiful, wonderful story of you now being the matriarch of a multicultural, multi-ethnic family and a pastor
at a
in a reconciling multi-ethnic church. So it's like, there's something about, is it Isaiah where it talks about beauty coming from ashes? And I'm not trying to in any way make all of your beginning ashes, but I'm just saying from what you would have felt as a little girl growing up
to now,
not knowing that there were more chapters ahead of your book that were going to be so beautiful and so wonderful after you said yes to Jesus.
Yes.
And so I hope that there are people that maybe if they feel like they're in the ashes part or the broken part of their book, that they'll know that there's some beautiful chapters ahead, and you're such a great testimony of that. So there's no way we could tell your whole story in one episode. So you have to come back. So I can get you back on another episode.
I'd love to.
Because you got to come back so we can talk music. I mean, we didn't get a chance to talk family and worship. I mean, there is so much we could talk about. You have a son that played in the Canadian Football League in the NFL. You have a son, Eric, who's playing in the NFL
9-1
right now. The San Francisco 49ers
are 9-1.
At the moment of taping this episode,
are 9-1.
So it could be that by the time.
Could you prophesy that by the time this episode airs,
they've won the Super Bowl?
We're going to be Super Bowl champions or something?
If the Minnesota Vikings can't go, then yeah. All right, but yes, I will say,
I know you love Eric and still pray for him despite your being a big Viking fan.
I would be so ecstatic to see your son win multiple Super Bowl championships and then leave the 49ers and go to the Minnesota Vikings and win more Super Bowls and then retire. That's my prayer, that he would win multiple Super Bowls in San Francisco, then he would be signed by the Minnesota Vikings and win more Super Bowls.
Well, we'll see. By the time this airs, we will have some of those answers answered, right?
Yes, indeed.
Meanwhile.
So, how can people follow you? Can they follow you on Instagram? Social media?
All right, so my name, Christa Armstead. Nothing fancy.
So just CHRISTA Armstead. So just follow her. Please follow her on Instagram. It will bless you.
When I release the book, can I come back?
Yes.
Talk about the book?
Yes.
Okay.
I cannot
Now
wait
y'all
for
heard
that.
that. That's a promise from
That's right.
Efrem that
That's
I can
right.
come back.
That's right. She will come back. You trust me. You will be on multiple shows, and so thank you so much for watching, for listening. Another episode of City Beats is in the books, and you just got to keep paying attention. You got to keep coming back because you don't know what we're going to be talking about, but it's always an awesome time to get more stories and even to reflect on what God is doing in your own life because you have a wonderful, powerful story yourself. So thanks for checking us out, and we'll see you again.